And welcome back to the Cover 3 podcast here on CBS Sports. That's Tom Fernelli. That's Danny Cannell. I'm Chip Patterson. New college football playoff rankings released right now. Thanks to all of you that are joining the conversation live at youtube.com/cover3. A reminder, please subscribe to the Cover 3 podcast on YouTube. Go and hit that notification bell. You get a new notice right there on your phone. Hey, are there locks there? Yes. Is there a new mailbag episode? Yes. Upon further review, you can find out. You can just be lazy about it. We'll just tell you, just go ahead and subscribe on YouTube. If you're listening to the audio product, like all the OGs, we appreciate it the entire way. A new top 4, Georgia, Alabama, Oregon, Ohio State, Cincinnati at 5, Michigan at 6. Michigan State comes in behind the Wolverines at number 7, Oklahoma at 8, Notre Dame at 9, Oklahoma State at 10. For the most part, we had just like you drop Michigan State, then shuffle, 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 and you drop Wake Forest and shuffle, 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 shuffle. No, not a lot of mix up. Again, the head-to-head of the Wolverines and the Spartans, if you want to take issue there. But let's see, Tom, Danny, who's feeling hot about this?
We've been on here waiting for you. And let's just tell you, I'm glad that you led this thing off because Coca did say, do you guys want to start without Chip? And both Tom and I were like, we'll just wait for Chip. And we're glad you did because you bring the energy. Last week was the fiery week. This week, I'm over it already. Like the whole process, I'm just over it. The Michigan State thing doesn't make any sense. Like we literally just saw this play out. But Tom and I were talking before, and this happens every year. You think you know what the committee's going to value because they did have Ohio State, Oregon, and they had the other SMU, Fresno State. Like there was a couple other head-to-heads that they honored, and you're like, oh, that's what this committee's going to value. And then they throw you a curveball this week, and they show you, nope, keep guessing, have fun. It's like whack-a-mole. Like you think you know, but you're not going to know. And it's ridiculous. It's ridiculousness. That's what we do.
I'm starting to get close. I told y'all by the end of this, I'll have it down. But I think out of my own personal projected 25, there were some curveballs. Like I was way off on. I think that there was Ole Miss was lower than I thought. I thought that Ole Miss was going to come in a little bit higher than number 15. That was a surprise for me. Top 11 outside of that Michigan State, I nailed. BYU was higher than I expected. The NC State was about a spot or two higher than I expected. And while I thought Purdue would be in, goodness gracious, all the way up to 19 is quite a reaction to that win. Happy to see UTSA. Thought I'd see Penn State, but I don't know, man. We're starting to get close to understanding the general head of this selection committee. I mean, they need things to be simple. They are busy human beings with jobs that don't include ranking these teams all the time. They are going to hit the easy button anytime that's possible. So I think that in general, this was an easy week for them because they didn't have to do too much tough decision making, especially in the top 15.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like you. I had the top 10 down except for Michigan State. And that is the surprise to me. And it is the weird thing that stands out because, like, if you just want to look at it from the which team do you think is better angle, I know Michigan State beat Michigan a few weeks ago. It was a close game in East Lansing. I think in the long run, Michigan's a better team than Michigan State. But I also think Ohio State's better than Oregon. So if you're going to ignore the head-to-head there in a game that took place 2 weeks ago, why are you still honoring the head-to-head in Oregon, Ohio State?
I also think Michigan State's win against Michigan is better than Michigan's win against Wisconsin. Like if we're going to judge these two 8-1 teams, strength of record, number 7 for Michigan, number 7 for Michigan State, number 8 for Michigan, strength of schedule, number 43 for Michigan State, number 45. I mean, here are those numbers: 7, 8, 43, 45, 8-1 is the record. Michigan and Michigan State have identical profiles. I think that Michigan State's win against the Wolverines is better than the Badgers' win against Michigan. But I guess that just came down to some football coach that was like, I don't know, guys. This Spartans pass defense has been lit up the last couple of weeks. I don't know if we can trust these guys.
Yeah, no, maybe. But Or it's, Michigan's got the better loss.
Right. That's what it
But you
is.
put Purdue in at number 9. Like, if you're going to lift Purdue all the way up into number 19, then
I had an Ohio State fan arguing with me about the Oregon-Ohio State thing because he said that their loss was worse than theirs and that should trump the head-to-head.
Yes.
And that's the type of debates that we have in 2021, which makes zero
Ohio
sense.
State's issue is strength of schedule. Strength of schedule for Ohio State's number 63 in the country. It's not impressive. It's not the Oklahoma 104, but it's because the strength of schedule remaining is much higher with the Michigan State game left and with the Michigan game left. The Buckeyes' strength of schedule rating will improve, but to put Oregon ahead of Ohio State, I think makes total sense right now.
But what's Oregon's strength of schedule?
25.
Okay.
Because the
but Ohio State played Oregon.
Fresno State, Ohio State, the best wins on Oregon's schedule are the non-conference games. So that's going to help your strength of schedule inherently.
Because it's like, I'm trying to figure out what the other major teams on Oregon's schedule have been.
UCLA, Washington, Cal, Colorado, Arizona, Stony Brook.
And how many of those teams are ranked?
Only one, and it's Ohio State. Fresno State was last week, but Ohio State doesn't get much more impressive. Penn State, Minnesota, Nebraska, Indiana, Maryland, Rutgers, Tulsa, Akron.
But who would you take? Like, would you take if you're whatever? This is a really dumb conversation because none of them are that good. But I was going to say, like, if you're okay, fine. Well, who's Maryland or Colorado? Who's better?
I was going to say the Fresno State, Minnesota is a better debate because I would take Fresno State.
I wouldn't. Fresno State.
But you got to admit that's a close one.
I don't think it's a huge gap, no, but I don't think Fresno State's beating Minnesota most of the time. And oh my God, what are we talking about with these dumbass rankings? Here, Danny, we mentioned this before the show. Chip, what do you think? If BYU is 9-0 with the same schedule, is it ranked ahead of Cincinnati right now?
BYU with the same schedule.
They would have multiple Pac-12 wins.
Would be. Yes, I agree. BYU would be ranked ahead of Cincinnati at this point. Yes.
And you mentioned it earlier too, like Auburn's at 17, which fine. There's not a team behind it where I'm sitting there getting like upset about being ranked behind Auburn. But if you're going to have Auburn at 17, shouldn't Penn State be somewhere in this top 25?
Penn State was my big surprise.
Yeah.
I thought that Penn State, strength of record 25, strength of schedule 13, wins over Auburn and Wisconsin, teams that you do have in the 25.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like how many teams? I'll break this down after the show. But like, how many teams have 2 wins against other teams in the 25 and are not currently in the top 25?
So it's like, and no disrespect to San Diego State, who has been good this year, but I think Penn State's better than San Diego State. And I think Penn State's more deserving. I think UTSA you have to have in there because they're undefeated, and they do have a Power 5 win over Illinois, which beat Penn State. So they've got the transitive property there on the Nittany Lions. I can't complain about that. Utah, cool. Arkansas, once again, proving it's the second best team in the SEC West by being the 5th ranked team from the division. Is that 5? Alabama, A&M, Auburn, Ole Miss, and Arkansas. So 5 of the 7 teams in that division are ranked in this thing.
And one of them's firing the coach. And then hold on, who's the 7th?
Mississippi State.
Which was last week. So now the entire SEC West has been ranked except for LSU in 2 weeks. So I think we know how they're propping Alabama up at number 2, folks. I saw in the for those who are joining in at youtube.com/cover3, thank you for jumping in. Somebody said which win of Utah's is the most impressive, especially if we're looking at like why Penn State was left out. I will read them very quickly. You tell me. Arizona State, UCLA, Stanford, USC, Washington State, and Weber State.
Arizona State.
Yeah, and that's only because they beat UCLA.
Although, hey, they beat Stanford by 45 on the farm, which is where Oregon lost to Stanford. So should Utah be ranked 3rd?
People are asking. It is a question that some people are asking. Now, Utah's strength of schedule is 77. not all that impressive, but they are the leader right now in the Pac-12 South, and apparently one of the last real roadblocks for the Oregon Ducks, who I do think are kind of what?
So it's almost like they're trying to set up a matchup between two ranked teams. Huh.
That's the number one spot that the committee does have. I think total wiggle room is 20 through 25.
Yeah,
that is where I will pull the tinfoil hat, because I know I'm talking to the tinfoil hat mafia right here. That is where I will put on my tinfoil hat and join you guys. I do think the 20 through 25 spots are spots that are dedicated to fulfilling and backing up the opinions you've made in 1 through 20.
Danny and I are the founding members of CFP Anon.
We need to get t-shirts made up.
Let's get those t-shirts made up. Here, y'all. Listen, the CBS Sports Store could use CFP Anon shirts. All right.
That's right.
So if where Oklahoma is ranked now, because like I get it, their schedule is been crap so far. Like Texas has done them no favors whatsoever with the way they've played since that game. Like, what game is there left on Oklahoma State? If they beat them twice, is that going to be enough to push them up to the top 4? Because like Oklahoma State is at 10 right now, but where are they going to put the Cowboys if the Cowboys lose to them twice? And then Baylor, if they lose to Oklahoma, is going to get docked. So
I think no matter what, the schedule gets in, because the strength of schedule rankings have to do with your opponent's records and the wins that have been accumulated by the combination, not just of Oklahoma State and Baylor, but even Iowa State 6-3. Like, those wins are going to make all of those ratings improve. I think if they win out, there's no question. Sooners will be up there.
But can they afford a loss? Like, if they lose to Baylor or Oklahoma State before the Big 12 title game, is that going to sink them? Or will it depend on what happens in front of them too?
It's like if it's Oklahoma State and Oklahoma State is, you know what you would get? Do you remember the year that it was Oregon and Utah and they were both in the top 10? But they couldn't quite get away from each other. I think Utah was the leader going into the Pac-12 championship game, but then Oregon beat Utah in the Pac-12 championship game. I think that Oklahoma would be the Oregon in this standpoint. Oklahoma cannot afford to lose.
All right. Well, then which of these three is going to be the one that convinces the committee Cincinnati's a top 4 team? USF, SMU, or ECU?
I mean,
the championship game, Houston.
It's Tuesday night, but I've got a funny feeling about Friday night in Tampa. I'm just saying this Bulls team has been feisty.
They were a tough out for Houston this past weekend.
No, they've been better the last few. I wrote about it in the bottom 25, which, by the way, I will just point out, the last 3 teams Cincinnati has played are all in the bottom 25 this week.
And listen, is it? I don't have the name pulled up. Timmy McClain. Did you write about it? It's the freshman quarterback that USF has now moved to. It's Timmy something. And in the after the game, Dana Holgerson had nothing but effusive praise for the Bulls' new rookie quarterback. Just saying.
No,
saying.
Yeah, Timmy McClain is the guy. They have been a little more feisty as of late. They're still not. Why are we talking about you?
Because it's about Cincinnati and it's about the playoff. Like all of these things are intertwined, because guess what? All the Cincinnati hand-wringing and all of the outrage, whether it be fake outrage or whether it be real outrage, all of it's out the window the second that the Bearcats take an L. And I'm just saying it would be hilarious if Jeff Scott's Bulls go and get this thing done on a Friday night in a swampy, rainy Ray J. Oh, that's our dream's gonna die.
Oh, fire the cannons. So that's what that guy yells, right? Who's Michigan? Coca's telling us Michigan is an underdog this week, which is the second week in a row. Yeah. What? Oh, wow. I know which side I'm taking on that.
So that's when you were asking about Oklahoma. Like, it's going to take care of itself, because the Ohio State, Michigan State stuff will probably resolve itself. Oregon, like, do we really trust Oregon to win out? Like, Oregon's the team I think is most fascinating. And I don't trust them to win out. Do you?
No.
Yes.
And Tom was the guy who picked them at the preseason, right?
Yeah. You really think they're going to win out? I mean, the rest of their schedule is not exactly a murderer's row,
Right.
but they do have to play Utah twice in all likelihood.
And Utah is getting pretty good. That defense, they feel a little more physical.
And they're a well-coached team, and I don't like playing well-coached teams twice.
Yeah.
Because if you do get them once, they're smart enough to figure out how to get you the second time. But I mean, Washington State, I'm not looking past Washington State this week. That's not a bad team. They've played pretty well as of late. And then Oregon State rivalry game at the end of the season. I think my problem with Oregon isn't that I don't think they're good. It's just I feel like they don't have that step on your throat kind of gear. And I think that they're limited with Anthony Brown in that way, where they don't pull away from teams. And that allows teams, let teams hang around. You just have to make a mistake or two, then they'll kill you.
So I think that my Oregon confidence is all vibes because you've overcome so many injury issues. That offensive line has been really banged up. Kayvon Thibodeau missing not only the Ohio State game, but some other significant time. Kind of seems like he's rounding into form. You lost CJ Verdell, and like Travis Dye is becoming this Pac-12 superstar right now. And I just think that the combination of Anthony Brown, Dye, Thibodeau, like a team that feels like they've already faced the challenges that would normally derail the season, and you're still here and you're in the top 4. Again, this is an all vibes analysis, but I think Oregon can continue to win these unimpressive narrow games all the rest of the way and show up in the college football playoff as a one-loss Pac-12 champ.
I would like to see it because I did pick it at the start of the season. I did take out a future on them making the playoffs. So for me, it would be good. I'm not optimistic. I watch this team and I think it's a good team, and I don't think it's a team that's incapable of losing at least once more.
You know who's in a pretty good spot, and they don't have to play a conference championship game. Most of their tougher opponents are behind them that they've already beaten. They're sitting there. I'm telling you, like, Oklahoma's in an interesting spot this weekend. They play Baylor, and they're only a 5-point favorite, 5.5 point favorite. Like, I think you brought up something interesting, Chip. Like, can they lose one of these?
What's the reaction going to be if Cincinnati wins out, Notre Dame wins out, and Notre Dame passes Cincinnati and gets the 4th?
Yeah, eye test. They look like, they could definitely, if they played on a neutral field, they'd be favored. So we can go ahead and move them forward.
But I understand where you're going.
That's what they would say.
If that happens, does that finally tip us to the expansion?
Cincinnati is rooting for Notre Dame. That's the problem if you're a Cincinnati fan, because you're right. Like, that debate would probably not break the Bearcats' way.
Like,
but what
Cincinnati, the guy who's going to steal your girlfriend.
What Cincinnati really wants is for Notre Dame to be like number 6 and to be able to go ahead and push the Bearcats on into that number 4 spot or wherever they might be. I think Notre Dame's in a pretty decent spot to be able to be exactly where the Notre Dame football program wants to be, which is playing in the New Year's Six. They're just like perfectly positioned to be able to go and like, give me a Notre Dame Wake Forest Peach Bowl, and the exec suite is jumping in ATL in the big body bins. I mean, so many well-pressed shirts, glad handing, just the future of the ACC being decided over cocktails before the game.
I like what Chris Kessler said in the comments about why Notre Dame would pass Cincinnati. Not the eye test, the ratings test.
Oh, yeah. I don't know, man. Notre Dame's already gotten its crack. Because we've had Notre Dame in 2018 and then again in 2020, 3 playoff appearances in 4 years. I mean, I understand we lean in on like Alabama and Clemson making it 6 years in a row, but that's a little overdoing it, right?
So does Oklahoma get the same treatment?
Yeah, it's because
Oklahoma's had a minute out. They had to learn their lesson in 2020.
I was gonna say though, Notre Dame's still got a pretty big fan base.
Yeah, pretty big, and it hits all of our important markets.
Mm-hmm.
All right, anything? Let's see, a little bit further down that stood out beyond those top 4. Oh, we have not even mentioned yet. I don't think that this is a reaction for the moment, but if we're in this pocket, Alabama remains at number 2. That is not a surprise to me. Tom, you said you did a projection too. You thought Alabama would remain at the number 2 spot. Is it just a nice placeholder for the Crimson Tide until they lose?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're going to be there until the SEC title game, or unless they lose first.
Danny?
So they're just going to ride it out at 2.
I think so.
Yeah. And if Auburn beats them and A&M wins out, A&M gets to play in the championship.
Is that how the SEC West clinchers go? I should have prepped that before,
so.
But yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Because I think, yeah. So
A&M.
A&M still in the mix. And then there's because I think there's a couple ways you could see a 2-loss team. Because I think if A&M beats Georgia, clearly they're in, and Georgia's in as well. And then there's your 2-loss team for the first time. So there's a couple ways you could see a 2-loss team in this thing.
How much does Alabama have to beat New Mexico State by this week to move to number 1?
I mean, so I think that Alabama right now is going to be able to bolster its number 2 position because I do think it will beat Auburn. But I feel so much less confident that it's going to be able to defend with its offensive line, block a defense with the offensive line that we have seen when that group goes up against, I don't know, I guess quality competition. I mean, LSU just was uniquely prepared for that game in ways that Alabama was not prepared for. But still, I mean, we're talking about going up against the Georgia defensive front that I'm looking at number 2 in Alabama. And when I project out what's going to happen at the end of the season, I conveniently just pull the Crimson Tide out and then just move the other puzzle pieces around.
Yeah.
What's y'all's Final Four? How would you do it right now?
Georgia.
Yep.
Alabama.
You still
Ohio
think
State, Oklahoma?
All right, I'm going to say no Alabama because I think Alabama loses the SEC championship game. Give me Georgia, Ohio State, Oklahoma, and Oregon.
I think that'd be fun. That'd be a fun 4. I feel bad for Cincinnati. Do you think Cincinnati be undefeated left out, or do you think they lose before then?
I think they're getting left out no matter what.
I think that if in the 4 that I listed, Cincinnati could be undefeated and left out, but Cincinnati continues to play the way it has the last 3 weeks. I understand the competition is different, but the margin for error is just so thin right now with the way that they're playing.
And that's the thing too, because even if they win out and these other teams kind of just hold serve, whether it's Alabama or Oregon getting that 4th spot or Oklahoma or Ohio State, all those other teams are ranked ahead of Cincinnati right now for the most part, but they have a chance to add resume wins to their resume. Cincinnati has no resume wins to add. It's shown its cards. It's just got to hope everybody else loses at this point.
Thanks to all of you who jumped in on the chat. We will be keeping this conversation going as we continue to join you after every college football playoff rankings release. You can follow him on Twitter at Tom Fornelli. You can follow him at Danny Cannell. You can follow me at Chip_Patterson. We'll be back in your feeds on Wednesday on the YouTube channel on Wednesday, not live, but smash that notification bell. You'll know when it goes live. And of course, if you're subscribed, well then, hey, the podcast gets delivered right to your phone. We'll tackle a couple mailbag questions Tuesday night at 10:13 on the East Coast. Probably too late for you to be able to get through whatever weird forest the comments have to get through. But you can at least go ahead and get in for next week, and we'll be able to tackle that on a future mailbag episode. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.